In today's session, it's my pleasure to introduce Veronique Kilian, a friend and colleague from Young CETAR, the Society of Intercultural Education, Training and Research. I met Veronique at a Young CETAR conference in Dijon in May, and I was particularly impressed with Veronique's methods, things that we'll discuss today, I hope. But first, Veronique, tell us where you're from and what was life like as a teenager. I'm particularly interested in your activities and influences and if they played any part in your career decisions.
Thank you so much for having me in this podcast, Vincent, or Vince, as we are allowed to talk to you. Um, I'm living in the Netherlands in a city called Den Bosch. And when it comes to my different cultural heritage, my parents were Chinese, are Chinese. And my grandmother told me that I am the eighth generation from China. So, 8 generations ago, my ancestors left China to go abroad, and my parents were born as Chinese and raised as Chinese in Indonesia. And then, after their graduation from university, they moved to Germany because they started to work for the for the Indonesian embassy in Germany. And then my father got a job when I was 3 years old in the Netherlands. So I was born already with so many cultures because with Chinese ancestors and an Indonesian passport um, in Germany and then being raised in the Netherlands, I already had and have four cultures within me. And that influenced me to study social sciences with a specialty in intercultural management. And it helped me to navigate through and beyond cultures to make meetings, authentic meetings possible. And
Okay,
as a teenager, yeah, and
well,
as a teenager, I already loved reading books and I love performing, which means that at this moment, I have written 4 books, 4 management books, and I regularly write newsletters on my LinkedIn page and on my personal updates. And that's the writing part. And when it comes to performing, one um, one time a year, I give a theater show, and in that I tell about how to uh, use tools for your personal development, for self leadership, to break through survival patterns so you can get more access to your authentic power. And then I also use martial arts in my theater show. So this year and like last year's, I used the Tai Chi with the Shaolin Kung Fu sword because I did Kung Fu for several years. And in these times, I also learned how to use the Tai Chi with the Shaolin Kung Fu sword, and I loved it so much that I went to China in 2019, and I found a Kung Fu school in the midst of China, and there I was training 6 days nonstop with the Shaolin Kung Fu sword. It was a Taoistic school, and I loved having private lessons from a female teacher. So I love to have this female warrior because it tells me something about empowerment as a woman.
okay, great. Well, like I said, this is a slightly unusual path, but one that I hope we'll find out more as we progress. So, performance. Now, sometimes when we think about performance, we think about acting or singing or dancing or something like that. So this was more to do with the martial arts.
Well, in the sense, the performance is in a theater, so it's what I call theater college. So I tell them it's like storytelling. I tell them about the 6 types of survival patterns that I discovered, and I tell them how to break through these survival patterns. And I have with each breakthrough, I have a tip, a suggestion to train, for example, happiness skills. and then I will start and end with the sword. So that's the theatrical element, one of them.
Okay, thank you. Now, you describe yourself as a transformational coach. What does transformation mean in your work, and what are some of your best practices? What do you enjoy most about it?
Well, transformation, you can see it as this. When we grow up, we have this choice, and not a very conscious choice as a child, to either be our authentic self or to adapt to the wishes of our parents and our environment, because we want and need love. We want and need to belong, to have this feeling of belonging. We want acknowledgement. And it is very much in human nature to give up one's own authenticity to adapt, because we can't permit ourselves as a child not to belong and not to earn the love of our parents or environment. So it means that often we go away from ourselves as who we really are. And another thing is that it's sometimes really difficult to really express yourself in your authentic feelings, giving feedback, um, having to deal with all the things that let's say our super ego is telling us, like you're not good enough or you need to do better, or all kind of criticism. And to to transform means that you go beyond these patterns of adaptation and to find yourself again. And sometimes it means that you have to really transform old pain that was still lingering, and it is very freeing. So the results is that in a they my coachees, they experience it as a miraculous way of getting back to their power. And several examples are, there was one coachee who loved to give lectures, but it didn't occur to him that he could give so many and so good lectures. And now he's really giving lectures where people from abroad are coming to visit him, and his life really transformed. So that's one example. Another example is in team coaching. It's something that I call the authentic dialogue that you've witnessed to, that people really dared to tell the deepest things from themselves, to share it. And that brings a team very much together because they share their vulnerability together.
Okay, thank you. Um, my next question, I think you've already answered it, but if there's anything else you want to say. So my next question was really, you work with individuals, teams, and leaders. What are the main challenges people and organizations come to you with?
Well, that's a good question, because sometimes teams are stuck and then they come to me because I work with what is beneath the surface. I work with what is in the undercurrent. And to work with the undercurrents, you really need several specific forms, which means that one is the authentic dialogue. The second is the way that I work with deep democracy, which means that everybody has a voice, the majority and the minority, and we use the wisdom of the minority to to add to the wisdom of the majority, so everybody's heard. Um, Another thing is that I work with individuals with NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and I work with constellations because that's also working with the undercurrents and with the unconscious layers. And also, I work with meditations.
Hmm. Okay, now let's get this right. Your work covers happiness at work, personal leadership, and team flow. How are those themes connected?
Thank you for that question, because that's a really nice one. I told you before that I wrote 4 books. The first one is about team flow with the authentic dialogue. The second one is about happiness at work. The third one is about leadership in self-organizing teams and organizations. And the third one is about coaching to the core, about the magic, the magical transformation. So the link is that most coaches I work with, I train them skills to learn happiness, and when they do that, the so-called higher brain starts to be activated. It means they get more resources, they get more stability, they experience more happiness, and that gives them the stability and the courage to take other steps. Because especially when it comes to you in the team, it asks courage to be yourself. It asks courage to express yourself. And sometimes it's too difficult to do that as yourself in a team. And there is a leader or a facilitator or a trainer necessary to work with what I call the collective unconsciousness. And to make that conscious. So we get we get to see what is in the collective consciousness. Let's say we see what is in the collective cloud. And then I work with the five elements. And those, if you navigate within five elements as a compass, then it will help you to get team flow. And it's also good for your personal leadership to find out, what do I need to do? What's the next step? What is my strategy? And what can I heal? What can I contribute in myself?
Okay. Do you ever find that people, yeah, there are certain obstacles that they need to overcome, but are they often reluctant to share, or do they not want to discuss where they felt that hurt? Or and is it usually, is it teamwork, or do you work mostly working individually?
I work with both. So it's not that I work most with teams and most with individuals. Um, because I need, let's say, when I work with and for a team, I need as much as time, because it's added as that I need to prepare for one-on-one coaching. And when it comes to what are they reluctant to share, sometimes they are not aware of the influence of their childhood. So when I do, for example, a constellation, and I um, I work with what they come with. For example, it's difficult for them or this person to say no. So I work with the no and I work with the yes. And then sometimes I go back to how was it in childhood. And then they will find out that their no wasn't there expected, or that there is what I call a family program to always say yes, to always keep the so-called harmony, which is not harmony, because if you can't respect your no, um, automatically conflict will arise. So I go back to that pattern, that family pattern, and then they see what the influence is, and then I help them to release that pattern, that which is bigger than them, so they can start to respect their personal no's and their yeses, follow their yeses. So that's one of the things how I work with it. So and the second thing is, it's my job, I think, to support them to see the things that they don't want to see. For example, they want to look away. And when I see and feel that there is an opportunity for them to look at it, I show it, because I put it in the constellation. So I go there where their blind spot is. And it's not only seeing what you don't want to see, it's about when it is allowed to be seen, it helps to release it. And sometimes we follow it up with the meditation, so they have an internal release with it.
I see. Okay, thank you. Now, you've got a background in sociology and intercultural management. How does that influence the way you work with those teams and organizations?
Well, lately I was asked to work for a team, and I'm still preparing this, and they were looking for somebody with experience in different cultures because this team has all these different cultures, and those cultures influence tremendously how this team interact with each other because it creates, for example, bonds that they're not conscious about. It creates very exclusiveness and inclusiveness in this team. It creates these layers, and it creates how you relate. They were looking for a person they could relate to, and if they would see me, that was the assumption of the one who gave me the assignments, then they could relate more easily to me because they thought that I would understand their cultural background. So it's something we have in common. And also, there was another team which was this team was one of the teams in a very big organization, and they had several team members with another cultural background, which and that influences if they speak up or not. So we need to find other ways because most Western, as I am used to, they just speak up, they follow their impulse. People from other cultures, they need an invitation or they need a structure to really feel the safety and the invitation to speak up and to speak what is in their heart. So, as I'm personally also have experience with a hybrid identity, because I'm not 100% one culture. I have all these different cultures within me, and there's a blend. So that's what we call this hybrid identity. And it's also very nice if we can discover our hybrid identity.
I see. Okay. Now then, which methods do you use in team coaching and how do you decide what a particular team needs?
Thank you for asking this question because I do have lots of methods. And what I do is I analyze the team. And what I do is I look in which stage is the team. What is there? Let's say that I consider four stages, and I need to know in which stage they are. Are they already falling apart? Do they have different coalitions? Are they getting to know themselves for the first time? So these are different stages in a team, and then I look at what needs to be done. What is their wishes? What is their longing? Because everything starts with a longing. And then when the longing is there, is I can work with that actively. And then I decide whether I use, for example, tests, because I'm specialized in personality assessments. And I can use the so-called AIM-Q or the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, and other kind of assessments. I can decide whether I use the authentic dialogue, and I've talked about it several times. So I explain briefly what it is because that's what you experience too. And you told me you were impressed with these methods, so it's good that I tell a little bit about it. So the team is sitting in a circle, so there is a middle point, and then there are three rounds. The first round is the check-in, the second round is the dialogue, and the third round is the check-out. And we use a talking piece, that's a ball that's in the middle. And in the first round, when it's the check-in, the ball goes around, which means that everybody has their turn. And even if you don't say anything, you still have the ball and you can pass. But it means that you are included in the circle. The second round, the dialogue itself, the ball is in the middle, which means that if you want to say something, you get the ball, which represents that you have the middle point. And then you put the ball back in the middle point. And when nobody has the ball, nobody says anything. And that is an opportunity for the team to sink in, to feel, to just feel in themselves, to let sink in what others have said. And a third round to check out, then you can still say what you want to say, or say what needs to be said, or look back on the dialogue. And so that helps teams to go in a deeper layer. And the authentic dialogue cannot lie. So if a team is very tense to say or not to say something, to avoid something, the tension will immediately be felt. So that's how it works.
Okay,
And
thank you.
then also said something about deep democracy. That's also a team thing that I have agile coaching tools that I work with. I have intercultural tools that I work with to get to know themselves, to have fun games, to have pleasure. I use martial arts. I use Taoism. I have so many methods, and I just look at what is necessary for the team.
Okay, thank you. Now, how is your approach to one-to-one transformational coaching different from the teams, the work with the teams that you do?
Uh, um, okay, so what is the difference? What's special about it?
Yeah, your
Um,
approach to it, maybe.
yeah. Let me check. Um, I I use, for example, the five elements. It's inspiration from the Tao. So fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And fire means the longing, the energy. And sometimes there's no fire at all in a team. So I need to work with, for example, an apathic team. And then there is earth. Is there common ground in the team? If there's not common ground, we first have to restore that. And then there is metal, for example. There it's not clear what the information is. It's not clear what the structure is. It's not clear what the process is, and we need to clarify things. Um, and then there's water. So when the water is symbolizing the emotions, and emotions means that there needs to be psychological safety. So we need to create the conditions first in order to let the emotions flow, so they are visible. And then a team can really go to go into another intimate level and to grow towards each other, and that creates growth, which is the wood. And another thing that is unconventional, as you told me before, that I use unconventional things, and you told me also that you liked it, is my inspiration from the Chinese Taoistic wisdom. And I use it, for example, in preparation for a team. Sometimes I explain those five elements, but I can also do, for example, Qigongs. And to give an example, I had a team that was consistently not starting in time. So let's say that we had to start at 1 o'clock, and then we had, let's say, 15 people, and then five people would come too late. And they were used to that they would come too late and everybody's still chatting. But I only had 1.5 hours and I needed that time. So when 12 o'clock started, I asked the people who were there to stand up. And then we started to do movements. And those who were too late, they apologized for being late and they started to go into the circle and just join. And then I did it, and then when I thought, okay, now everybody's there, no more people will come, then I started the rest. But then I already had the team going on, let's say. And it was such a nice thing that they were so used to it that when there was a normal gathering with their manager, without me, when it was time to start, they just started to stand up and they started to do the qigong themselves. And the managers thought, what's going on here? So that's one of the things how the teams, yeah, became one team.
Okay, great, great. Now, so you integrate these Taoist practices and martial arts into your work. What,
Mhm.
at the bigger level, what can ancient Eastern wisdom teach modern leaders and teams?
Um, Well, sometimes a team is beyond talking. So they already talked a lot, and they are tired of talking all the time, or talking doesn't help them in a step to grow. And when it comes to martial arts, your body language is saying everything. Your body language does not lie. For example, if you learn to express yourself in martial arts, I use, for example, this. So you go, you put your hand out, and um, you say the ha from your belly. And when you do not dare to express yourself, there will be a small gesture. When you're out of balance because you're always with your attention with the other person, you will go forward and you lose your balance. So that's what the body is telling. It's called the yang gesture, and then there's the yin gesture, which means that you are holding space, and that's this. So it's like an opening thing, like this. And but some people, they can't really receive. They do this, so they are actually defending themselves, or they are overwhelmed and they do like this. Oh. So it's not that's not powerful, but because the yin, the welcoming and the receiving um, power is also powerful. And like the yang is, if it's not done with precise and focus and compassion, it becomes too harsh. So it's the yang with a yin perspective. So there's balance, and I it's a way to learn their boundaries, their interactions, how they are empowered, and that's a way to work with it.
Okay. So you talk about moving from survival patterns towards living and working from your essence. What does that look like
Mhm.
in practice?
Well, thank you for asking, because that's the theme of my last book, Coaching to the Core. And I still hope one day I can translate it in English, and I will meet an English publisher. I will explain briefly what it's about. I discovered six survival pattern styles. So and they start to develop in the childhood. The first is when you retrieve yourself in life as an adult. And it often starts when you feel that you're not welcome as a child. If you have the feeling you're not welcome, not really seen, then it's difficult for you to bring yourself in the world. The second one is the survival because you think in lack. If you did not get the emotional presence and support that you needed as a child, you cannot really um, receive things, or you close off of your emotions, or you think it's not there for me. And that's a difficult one. If you think here it's not there for me, you will not take chances. Sorry, you will maybe start to be greedy, or you will save more than is necessary. So um, I will also tell you what is the transformation. The transformation is to start to live from abundance. And the first one, when I said about retrieving, it's about starting to love life, to go fully into life. Because if you think life rejected you and you retrieved yourself, it's your turn to step into life. So the third survival is when you become one with one of the parents, and you can't get loose anymore. You can't get to your own personal identity. You can't make your choices. You feel guilty. You feel responsible for other people. It's to become what I call the happy one again, because it's either to learn to be happy again as a single person or as a person in itself, and and that's why say it's the happy one. The fourth one is when you lose your own autonomy because you gave away your power, you gave your authority away, and it's going back to that voice of inner authority, and really from that power deal with what you need to do, what you say, what you need to say, instead of fighting against external authorities or having this inner conflict, wanting to follow yourself, not maybe not even know what your inner guidance is, and then having the courage to follow it. The fifth one is the frozen heart. That it's difficult for you to really open the heart again. And if you can't open your heart, it's very lonely and it's very vulnerable and it needs a lot of courage. And it's about melting your heart. And here the Taoist practice comes in the service, because the Taoists have a practice what I call, or what is called, inner alchemy. So it's like the fusion of sun and water, if I can use the metaphors. And when your heart needs to be melted, you need to do this inner alchemy to melt your heart again. So it is flowing again in the whole body. So that's the practice of inner alchemy. And and here it comes also with what I call the orgastic nature, because as human being we have sexual energy, and we can use that sexual energy to make children. But there's also something that's called transformational sexuality, which is the practice to let flow the sexual energy in your own body. So you don't need somebody else. It's doing something that you flow in your own body. And that will also support to melt your heart and to connect the upper and the lower part in your body and mind. And then the sixth one is those who always thought that they had to do everything by themselves without any support. It was too difficult to really surrender. So if vulnerability is a no-go, you have to do everything yourself because you can't ask for any help. And this transformation means that you stay with yourself as a warrior, but you use your warriorship to go into the vulnerability, because then you create tremendous power with other people, you create more safety, and you create connection. So that's
Mm.
the coaching to the core. And I do this with individuals, I do this with teams. And I also wrote about the coaching methods in teams and individuals, how to support people to go from woundedness to miracles.
Okay, Veronique, I wish I'd have met you 50 years ago when my heart really
Mm,
needed to be melted. That would have been
mm,
good
mm,
for me, I think,
mm,
definitely.
mm,
Okay, we've got a few more questions, and then we'll have to wrap up. But what
mhm.
role does purposeful economy play in your work, both for individuals and organizations?
Well, I am the initiator of the Day of the Purposeful Entrepreneur. And purposeful is not in the sense of purpose driven, because purpose in, let's say in Dutch, is about your mission, your vision, your strategy. But purposeful is also meaningful, and it means, in a Dutch context, it means that you do the things, take actions that contribute to balance in economy, in the planet, and in the people. For example, everything we do has consequences. The telephone you choose to take has consequences, because I discovered that, for example, children in Africa have to um, work in the mines and to put their hands in quick. I don't know, is that English word? Quick, the poisonous liquid.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to do all this to deliver the ingredients for our telephones. And then there's something called the fair phone. And the Fairphone has this intention to create a telephone um, that is fair, a fair trade telephone. So I decided to buy this fair trade telephone, and it wasn't very easy because it was even discouraged by the seller, where I thought that I could buy this. And it has also some things that are not so comfortable because in the beginning, this Fairphone, I didn't have this protective thing around it. It started to fall a lot of times. I had to, within 3 months, I had to displace the top current.
Yep.
Happily, I had one. And now it doesn't fall so many times anymore. But I can't use it, for example, with water, because when sometimes your phone falls into the toilet, and this phone is very sensitive about it because they want you to be able to open the telephone so it's more easy to replace all the things, and that's their vision of
Very well.
sustainability. But it also means that if your phone falls into the toilet and you don't get it out in time, you need a way to dry it. That's some phones that are more water resilient. So it has some discomfort. And another thing is the choice whether to eat vegetarian or not. I'm from an Asian background, and fish and meat is very integrated in the Asian kitchen. So sometimes for me, it's really difficult to think, okay, I'm going to eat vegetarian, even though I have intentions to eat vegetarian. But um, uh, I love to eat good, and when the vegetarian dishes in restaurants is only cheese, cheese, or cheese, I take something else. So it's also the personal discomfort you need to bear, and you need to develop yourself. That's what my vision, in order to make meaningful choices, and then you can really contribute to a better world. That's what I think. And that's why I created this day of the meaningful entrepreneurial actions. So you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but it means to take entrepreneurial actions. And this year is the first year that this day is there. And this year I will give this theater performance. So in 2026, it's on the 30th of September, and next year we will see which day it will be, to create this contribution to the sustainability of our planet.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Now,
Thank
last
you.
question. If an international organization, leader, or entrepreneur listening to the podcast would like to work with you, what can you offer them and how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can get in touch with me, of course, by sending me an email. If you look at my website, veroniquekilian.nl, or trainjegelukscompetenties.nl, it means train your skills for happiness. I'm also on LinkedIn if you search for Veronique Kilian. Um, and please be reminded that if you find Veronique Kilian, it's without underscore or a stripe in the middle, because there's another site with a stripe, and that website is made by an agency that supports me to do to have me as a public speaker. You can ask me to do any workshop, any lecture, or do online one-to-one coaching. Because I also can do meditations online. I coach online too. It can be in English. You can also do diets. I haven't told you about it, but I also support the diets. And diets is a way to do self-inquiry. And when we do the self-inquiry, we can. It is done frequently online. So that would be really nice if I could do that for you. And I'm also trained in in online team meetings and team gatherings, which means that I use methods that support to do it within this Zoom view, for example, because team building online is different from alive. And
Okay.
I can also do webinars.
Mhm. All right. Now, Veronique, thank you so much for your time this morning and for sharing so well and so much. I really appreciate it. What I'd like you to do, you mentioned your 4 books. Could you send me links to your 4 books, and then I can put them in the box below this on
Yes.
YouTube, and then people
Yeah,
can
I
have
will
access
gladly do.
to that. And
Thank
if
you.
you could
Yeah,
just stay on the line for 2 minutes, I'd just like to thank you personally for being with me today and for sharing so much. Thank you. So,
I will. Thank you
my
so much.
next, all right, well, thank you. My next session is I don't have, well, I've got a few people I'm talking to. Some is busy and people can't quite sort their diaries out yet, but fingers crossed we'll have another Training the Trainer podcast in the next week or so. But for now, thank you so much, Veronique, and I'll see you on the other side.
See you.